G'day guys, this will be my review of the Olight Javelot Pro 2 hunting kit. Why am I reviewing a torch when I use thermal so much? Well, I still use lights to find things quite often, especially downed animals. And with the high cost of thermal, I figured a lot of people will appreciate an opinion on this product, which will get you in the field shooting at night for a lot less cash. Like I've said repeatedly, absolutely buy a thermal scanner before you buy a thermal rifle scope. You can use a light like this on your rifle to do all your shooting, and that way you're still doing all your passive scanning with a non-rifle mounted thermal hand scanner. Olight Australia did send me this torch for the review, but my opinion will be honest as usual, and I'll give you some real world use scenarios and some examples. While we're doing all the caveats, yes, I am wearing tactical Crocs in my backyard and taco socks, just to clarify. This new Javelot at full peg is 2500 lumens, which will punch a beam out into the paddock a maximum of 1050 metres. A caveat on that range rating, it will just be a visible return off a reflective surface. Practically, I find that the usable range is around a quarter of the beam rating. So for this light, around 250 to 300 metres of usable beam to our eye, viewing a non-reflective target like an animal. One thing I noticed in the specs was the power levels have stepped power outputs. This will mean if you run the light at full tilt, at 2500 lumens, it will only run at that brightness for about 5 minutes before stepping down to 1000 lumens, but it will run there for around 3 hours. This will be to manage heat, and it's not a bad feature to have, unless you do like cooking your lights. Realistically, as a hunting light, needing 2500 lumens for a longer range shot would rarely be 5 minutes runtime, more like maybe 60 seconds if you're slow, and you'd have fired and be looking for a downed animal. Then you don't need it set as bright, and you'd turn it down to extend the battery life. There are 4 brightness levels which have a visible indicator light on the front switch. There's also a battery level indicator showing the remaining capacity in 25% steps. Switching is via a rear tail cap or the side switch. This enables you to turn it on and jump through the 4 brightness levels, or go straight to turbo or low mode if required. The kit comes with this really neat remote switch. The back of it magnets onto the tail cap. This part here you velcro onto the fore end of your rifle stock. That way you can have one finger on your trigger ready to shoot, the light's off. Push the button on the fore end, light comes on, acquire the target, and you can fire. It just saves waving a torch around unnecessarily and potentially scaring off targets. This, like the charger, is a simple magnetic attachment to the torch tail cap, and it has both turbo and low buttons, as well as a hold to run or click to turn on-off. On the brightness levels, the runtime will depend on the power output. I'll chuck up a few screenshots of the specs, as it ranges from around 210 minutes at full power, that's level 1. Remember, ramping down in brightness through that time frame to a massive 15 days at the lowest level of 4 off a fully charged battery. That leads well into the battery type used. For better or worse, it's proprietary and houses 2 3.6 volt 5000 milliamp hour 21700 rechargeable batteries. I think I'm slowly getting used to companies using proprietary battery housings, but it does restrict a user from simply swapping out cells and keep the light running. Sure, you can buy more ribbed housing batteries, and that's what I'd do if this was mine, but simply swapping out a generic cell to me sounds a little bit easier. Charge-wise though, these Olights are great with a simple magnetic tail cap, USB charge lead, so it's a catch-22 with the battery in the housing, as these snap-on chargers are mint. On the tactical front, this light is a bit of a beast with the rib body and notched front bezel. In hand, it's about 10 inches long, and I'll say it's not a light I'd appreciate swung at me with some force. Wouldn't be a bad little car light down the side of your seat to handle all sorts of situations. Although the body does look like a ribbed dildo, yes, it does give good grip in slippery or wet situations. Olight have really nailed this deep reflector design. I find the center hotspot with perimeter spill so useful for hunting. You can really use that less intense light on the edges of a beam design like this, and often you'll see eye shine off from the brighter middle beam. I've tried the focusing type LED lights, and for scanning, personally, I prefer the deep reflector lights. I did some night testing on deer and foxes last weekend. I recorded that footage with the Trigger Cam 2.1 on the back of my Zerotech scope. Unfortunately, the footage, which should have been amazing, was unusable. The deer at 150 to 200 metres Hugely visible and shootable in the scope eyepiece, just ended up being little white eye dots on a completely black video recording. Note to self, don't use the trigger cam for night footage again. All of the footage that you will see of this torch in the field at night is recorded with a Sony full-frame mirrorless camera, and I've set the exposure manually to match roughly what I can see with my eye or through a rifle scope. Filters. This Olight kit comes with two, a green and a red. Straight up, the red filters are poor on a white light. It absolutely kills the beam when fitted. It might be alright for use on a 22 long rifle, but past that range it really starts to struggle. I tried it on a fox at 100 metres. While yes, there was eye shine, actual animal ID beyond that is not what I class as safe shooting practices at all. The green filter will add another 25, maybe 50 metres to the range, but I wouldn't expect much more than that. If you're chasing a light for dedicated colour use, in my opinion, look at something different with a true coloured LED diode. I don't do unboxing videos, but there is a neat Pelican hard type case it comes in, which I found a nice touch. It houses the light, filters, scope mount and charge lead very nicely. The provided scope clamp is simple but works well on the top or side of any rifle scope. The beam hotspot is large enough that alignment won't be an issue on most scopes. This review will release in parallel to an Olight Australia sale in September 2023. There's a link in the video description for this specific light kit where it is 35% off during the sale. There's also a 10% discount code for non-sale items, or if you want 10% off anything else after the sale ends. I've got these cattle up here on this ridge line. They are 500 metres away. And you can just make them out when you zoom in, which is pretty impressive. That's a long way. I don't know if I'd be happy to take ID and shoot at something that far away, but certainly getting out there, that's for sure. As you can see there, long way. Do I recommend this light for hunting? Absolutely. It's probably the best throw style torch that I've owned for that type of situation, and to be honest, I've probably owned more torches than I should care to admit. Big thanks to Olight for supplying the light for the review. If you did like the video, make sure you give it a thumbs up. Ensure you subscribe to the channel. I'd appreciate it if you'd like to have a look at my Patreon, and I'll see everyone next time.